Hi, welcome back to the third video of the review for our Unit 6B test. I still have my calculator open. It is still in degree mode, so I'm good to go to continue on with number 9. All right, number 9, find the value of the marked angle. So just like in the last problem, I'm looking for this angle measured that has the little letter in it. That is where I'm going to put my smiley face. It is right here. Oops, I don't know where my angle mark went. I know coming out of that smiley face is my hypotenuse and my adjacent side. So across from my right angle is my hypotenuse. And next to that angle that's a smiley face is going to be my adjacent side. And then all the way across, my smiley face is yelling at way over here, my opposite side. Then we write our acronym, so katoa, so we can see which trig function that we want to use. I know my adjacent side is 4, and I know my hypotenuse is 5. So the trig function, sine, cosine, or tangent that has 2 check marks is going to be the cosine, because I can see both adjacent and hypotenuse. Since I'm looking for the angle, I know I'm going to be doing the inverse. So the cosine with the little -1 for the inverse, adjacent over the hypotenuse. So my adjacent is 4, and my hypotenuse is 5, and that's going to give me that angle. So I'm going to put this in my calculator. To get the little -1, I'm going to hit second cosine. I can see I have my little inverse there. 4 divided by 5. Close my parentheses, put that seatbelt on, and I get 36.86.8698, so 87. And again, these are degrees, so we might round to the whole degree. It will be multiple choice, so whichever one is rounded correctly is the answer choice that you want to choose. Okay, let's look at number 10. For number 10, I'm back to finding a side, right? So they did give me the angle this time, so I'm not going to be doing inverse. I'm going to go back to doing the cross multiplication. I'm going to put my smile at the angle that I know, and I know coming out of that angle, one side's the hypotenuse and the other side is the adjacent side. Across from my right angle is my hypotenuse, which means this one next to my smiley face is the adjacent. And then my smiley face is yelling all the way across to the opposite side of the triangle. I'm going to write my acronym, so katoa. And then I'm going to circle the 2 sides I'm working with. I'm trying to find the adjacent side. And I know the hypotenuse, or I'm trying to find the hypotenuse. I know the adjacent. The one that has my 2 check marks is going to be cosine. So cosine is the one that I want to use. Oops. Cosine, and I know the angle this time, so I'm not doing inverse, of 37 is equal to the ratio of the adjacent over the hypotenuse. My adjacent is 11. My hypotenuse is x. So again, because I can see that x is in the denominator, I know I'm going to divide. X times the cosine of 37 equals 11 times 1. And then I need to get rid of the cosine of 37 that's being multiplied to the x, so I'm going to divide it out. And again, I knew I was going to divide because that x started out in the denominator. All right, so x equals 11 divided by the cosine of 37. 11 divided by the cosine of 37, put that seatbelt on, is 13.773. That is my answer for x. Let's look at number 11. Find the angle of elevation of a sun if a building 600 feet tall casts a shadow 752 feet long. This one is an interesting problem because people tend to get this one wrong because they label the shadow in the wrong place. So I have a building, And we're looking at the elevation of the sun. So if you think about where the sun would be, right? It's up here. And it shines down and creates a shadow when something gets in the way of the sun ray, right? So the angle of elevation is going to be when you're looking up away from the building towards the sun. And we're trying to find this angle of elevation. So I know I'm doing an inverse because I'm trying to find an angle. My building is 600 feet tall, so we generally get that number in the right place, but the shadow, 752 feet, we tend to put that in the wrong place, okay? That shadow that's 752 feet long, a lot of people put it along the hypotenuse, but think about when you go outside in the sun, where your shadow is. Your shadow comes out of your feet and it's on the ground, right? So your shadow doesn't come out of your head and go at a diagonal. Your shadow comes out of your feet along the ground. So that shadow is always going to, anytime you see shadow, your shadow is on the ground. Okay, so now let's look at labeling this triangle so that we can set up a trig function. I know I'm trying to find this angle right here, and coming out of that angle, I have a hypotenuse and an adjacent side. My hypotenuse is going to be across from the right angle made by the building and the ground, which means my 752 is the adjacent side. And my 600 over here is the opposite side. I'm going to look at so, ka, toa every time. And let's go with orange, like the sun. I know my opposite is 600. I know my adjacent is 752. So I can see I'm going to be using tangent. The tangent of the angle. We don't know the angle. That's what we're trying to find. So I'm going to do the inverse and then my ratio. Oops. Opposite over adjacent. My opposite is 600 and my adjacent is 752. When I close that parentheses, that's going to give me the angle measure. So let's put that in the calculator and see how big that angle is. The inverse tangent, so second tangent of 600 divided by 752 gives me 38.585 degrees. And again, it might round on your test to a whole number, but just make sure you're rounding correctly based on the number that you see in your calculator. Let's do number 12 to finish out this video. Find the marked angle. So again, I know I'm going to be doing inverse because I'm looking for this marked angle right here. So I'm going to put my smiley face. Out of that smiley face, I know is my hypotenuse and my adjacent side. So across from the 90 is my hypotenuse, which means this other side is my adjacent, and my smiley face is yelling to the opposite side of that triangle. So, ka, toa. All right, my adjacent side is 6. My hypotenuse is 9. So I can see I'm using cosine. We normally do cosine of the angle, but I'm trying to find the angle, so I'm going to do the inverse. Adjacent over hypotenuse. My adjacent is 6, and my hypotenuse is 9. That is going to give me my angle. So second cosine to get that inverse of 6 divided by 9 gives me 48.189, but that 9 bumps because of the 6, so it's really 0.19 degrees. Remember, just make sure when you're choosing your multiple choice answer that you are choosing the rounding correctly. If it says the whole number, I would go with just 48. And then if it's multiple choice, I want to pick the one that's most closely correct to this rounding. Okay? On the next video, we're going to start with the next one. Don't think we skipped. It goes from 12 for some reason to 14. My numbering got off. We're going to be looking at regular shapes and finding the apothems and areas and all of that and what it entails. So make sure you come back in the last video to be looking at our areas. Okay? We're going to do a pentagon and we're going to look at an octagon. All right? Thank you so much for watching.